Are you curious to know what's going on with real estate, with the market, with interest rates, how interest rates affect the market? Are you a homeowner here in the Columbia and Greater Columbia area? Well, then you want to stay tuned for February's market update because I'm spilling the tea. And this is just on our total MLS. So stay tuned for February market update for 2024. You know, there's so many things that people can have an opinion on. And for me personally, I've always loved math. And that's why I love doing these February market updates, because it's the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. The numbers are what they are. Now, of course, people can look at the numbers and have different opinions on them, on why, etc., but the numbers aren't going to change. So let's jump into the numbers, and let's go up into February's market update, and let's see what's going on here in the Midlands. So we actually did 19% more transactions this year than we did February 2023. This year, for February, we closed out at 813 transactions, whereas in February 2023, it was only 686. Homeowners have been able to see a 3% appreciation. Now, keep in mind, over these past 12 months, from February 23 to 24, which is where we're at now, there has been, ups and downs. But overall, we still see a more steady, reasonable appreciation. It's only been 3%, which of course is drastically different from what we're seeing over some 12-month period. We even hit 16% sometimes, which one that's hard to fathom, but then it's also impossible to sustain as well. But this at 3%, we like to see it a little bit higher, but once again, with the interest rates peaking up, there was a dip. And now, but as you can see, over time, when you look at things from a holistic point of view, houses are going to appreciate. Many people were saying they were going to wait for prices to drop or interest rates to drop before they purchase. Well, as you can see, houses aren't dropping that much. We still got a 3%, as mentioned. The average sale price for February 2024 was $302,675, which is up from $293. So that's almost $10,000 in appreciation that a homeowner has gained. And our inventory is up. We're up 15% in terms of inventory versus what we had February 2020 can't talk today, versus what we had in February of 2023. Now, we can anticipate, most people say a balanced market is either 4 to 6 months or 5 to 7 months worth of inventory. If you look at our first graph here, you'll be able to see how the new listings versus sales. So in January, you see how many new listings we had. Looks like right at 1,300 new listings versus a little bit over 600 in sales. But those sales went up to 800 in February, and listings came down significantly to about 1,100, which, of course, that's changing the inventory amount, and we'll be able to see that. Now, of course, we're recording this in March, and that's why March numbers are so low in terms of listings and in terms of sales, because the month isn't completed. But what I would like to show you is our next graph, which is the absorption rate, which is the months of inventory that we had. So we started off January with 5 months, which was basically like a balanced market, right? There's enough supply for the demand that we have. But you see that number is decreasing right now. For February, we have 4 months worth of inventory. We'll see what that finishes out with when this month is done. But we can anticipate that as we get into the spring season, warmer weather, people are going to be more active as the school year ends. And that's going to increase, that's going to decrease the amount of inventory that we have, which likely will make prices go up again. Now, still looking at the days on the market, because this is the buyer activity. How are buyers responding to these inventory changes? Well, from February 2024, the average days on the market was 49, which in January, the average days was 45. So things are sitting a little bit longer, right? And then, of course, February last year, it was 49. So no change. So February's been pretty consistent. Last year, days on the market was 49. This year, days on the market, 49. List the sale price, another key indicator. What are things selling for? How much discounts are sellers having to give to get their property sold? February, 97.89%. 97.89% versus January, which was 97.99%. So it's very slight reduction there, not much of any consequence. So things are still moving a little bit slower, but sellers are still basically getting 98.89%, which is, let's call it 98% of their list price, which is pretty good. If I listed at 200,000, I'm getting 98% of that, which would be 194, right? 196, sorry. So, but sellers are giving more concessions, which there's no way for us to statistically be accurate in tracking that because it's not a required field within our MLS. But sellers are giving more concessions that we see in our experience of working with buyers and sellers. When you look at January of this year, there were 644 transactions that we had. And this month, which is a shorter month, we had 813, as I mentioned earlier. So that is a huge jump in terms of activity. So that activity, once again, is bringing down the supply because we're not taking as many listings and we're closing out more. So inventory is shrinking. So we anticipate that as we go further into the spring, that inventory will continue to diminish, which will push it more towards a seller's market. So we're probably going to anticipate this list to sell price going up, days on the market going down, and these things. But you got to stay tuned and watch March market update so we can see if things are trending. But that's what we anticipate. But this is just a broad bird's eye view. Not only is this all of the greater Columbia area, but this is also very broad statistically. But what we are going to do is look at the breakdown in terms of price point and see how things are being affected. Look at this breakdown in price point across the MLS. What pops out to you is really this 200 to 300 price range. Obviously, with our average price being right above 300, we know that 200 to 400 is going to be our most active price point. We've seen that consistently across being in the business and doing these market stats updates. But when you look at 793 active listings with 723 pending, that is phenomenal. And you look at the difference, that is almost double what is at the 300 to 400 price point. So if you are a home seller and you have a listing that's going to be listed between 200 and 300, you can expect that there's going to be a lot of activity on that. But you also got to see there's a lot of competition, so you want to make sure you price it right. And that's why pricing and the data is so important, because that's going to help you determine where you need to be at, what is the sweet spot in the marketplace. Another thing that jumps out to you is the closed under that 200 to 300 price point, 341. It's almost double what we closed out between 300 and 400. So we see consistently that that is going to be the hot spot, that 200 to 300 price point, which right now, that's the affordability. That's where the new starter home prices are, because most now the starter home is almost starting at like 200,000, you know? And so that's why there's so much activity, because home prices have appreciated so much over the past couple of years. And then not only that, the 300 price range is not as affordable with the interest rates being what they are. So of course, then once you get over, you know, that 400 price point, you see how things slow down. You got 177 pending, 241 active with only 63 closed. You're back under double digits in terms of closed sales. And then once you're over 500, you got 336 active with 161 pending and 66 closed. So as I stated, this is just a very bird's eye view to give you an update on what's going on in here in our market. But if you have a specific question, if you have a concern, if you're an investor, if you're a home buyer, it's important that you use this to try to tailor your expectations if you're going to be in the real estate market. If you're a home seller, no, things are slowing down, right? Things slow down. It went from 45 to 49 days on the market. So don't anticipate that it's going to sell in the first 2 weeks, because that's not what the data is telling us. That's not a realistic expectation. So you may not need to do a price reduction right off the bat. But all that depends on where you're priced at too. You know, would it be better to price at 305 or at 295? Based on the data, what is this here? But you also got to look at your neighborhood. You got to look at your finishes. You got to look at any kind of updates or any kind of renovations that you've done to your house to see if it's worth it. So all this data is just information. How you process that information, what that information means to you, is different for everybody. So depending on whether you're a buyer, seller, investor, what your goals are, what your dreams are, all these things need to play a part in determining the strategy that you're going to have when entering the marketplace. You know, if you're a buyer, right, you see that inventory is shrinking. So maybe, you know, you're not going to get that fenced in backyard. Maybe you need to find a house and then fence it in yourself. Maybe you need to be more reasonable on repairs depending on what they are, because inventory is shrinking. So if this checks, you know, 90% of your boxes, then maybe it's something that you should very seriously consider. But regardless of your situation, we love to hear from you. We love to hear, one, if you like these market stats videos, if there's a specific neighborhood or zip code you want us to do, or if you want us to do something for your specific house so you can determine your value or range. Even if you're not thinking about moving, it's always important to know what's going on, you know, how much you owe versus how much you think the house is worth. Maybe you're thinking about doing a HELOC loan. So there's so many ways to use and process this data, but I want you to get something that's specific for you. So thank you so much for watching. As always, my name's Antonio Newton with the Newton Group at Coldwell Banker. You can reach me at 803-608-2597. I'd love to be able to have a conversation with you. Call me anytime. If I don't answer, I guarantee I'll call you back. And whether you know someone moving here or moving out of state, we can certainly help them with their real estate needs wherever they're at in the U.S. So I look forward to hearing from you. And until next month's video, stay safe.